Hello, my name is Kylie, and welcome to Ancient History, the Ancient Romans Part 1. In this video, we will take a look at the basic events in ancient Roman history, from its founding to its end. In Part 2 of this series, we will look at ancient Roman culture, art, and religion. Are you ready to take a journey through time and learn about ancient Roman history? Let's get ready to travel. The ancient Romans were one of the most powerful cultures that have ever existed. Their empire lasted from 753 BC to 476 AD. The Romans ruled over an empire which is a group of lands that they took by force and then strictly controlled. The Roman Empire began in the city of Rome in the central part of what is today Italy. Rome is today one of the most famous and beautiful cities in the world. Both the city and the entire empire were called Rome. Rome was founded by a man named Romulus in 753 BC, and the city was originally called Roma. Romulus was the first of 7 Roman kings that would later be replaced by senators. We'll talk more about them in a minute. The last of the Roman kings was Lucius Tarquinius. Superbus, also known as Tarquin, ruled from 534 to 509 BC. He was a very mean dictator, and at the end of his rule, his family was exiled. This means he, along with all of his family, were forced to leave Rome and never return. After this, Rome was ruled by senators and a constitution was written. Senators were men from prominent families who were not elected but rather served in the government because of their wealth and being part of an important family that owned a lot of land. Only male wealthy landowners could be in the Senate. The Roman constitution at this time was a largely unwritten set of rules and guidelines meant to keep the senators in power. This set of rules and guidelines changed quite often to suit the needs of the senators at that time. In other words, they changed it to keep themselves wealthy and in power. One famous ruler of Rome was Julius Caesar. In fact, he was so famous, William Shakespeare wrote a play about him. He ruled for only 1 year, 45 BC to 44 BC. Remember, when we talk about time, BC or before the birth of Christ, the years follow a number line heading towards the year 0. Caesar took power after a civil war and was a very, very powerful leader. He ended the Senate and became a dictator, which means he was totally in charge. No one could question him, and he maintained power with his own army. One interesting thing he did was to hire Sosiones, an Egyptian astronomer, to work out a new 12-month calendar. It is the same calendar system most countries use today. Julius Caesar was assassinated by 3 Roman senators who wished to end his dictatorship and restore the Senate. After Julius Caesar was killed, several leaders in the Roman government and military made themselves emperors of the Roman Empire. A man named Octavius, who renamed himself Augustus, which means first emperor, appointed himself emperor of the Roman Empire in 27 BC. Jesus was born under the reign of Emperor Augustus. Perhaps you remember this from the Christmas story. During this time, Rome also began to become increasingly intolerant of the new Christian religion. The Romans didn't accept any attempts of people in their empire to regain their independence. Once under Roman rule, they had no choice but to follow the rules of the empire. Nero, Roman emperor in 64 AD, blamed a huge fire that destroyed much of Rome on the Christians. Many Christians were persecuted at this time. In the year 66 AD, the Jews of Judah rebelled against their Roman masters. In response, Nero dispatched an army under the generalship of Vespasian to restore order and destroyed the city of Jerusalem and the Jewish temple in 70 AD. Between the years 80 BC and 122 AD, the Roman Empire spread far, and many different lands and cultures were made part of this empire. At the peak of Roman power, they controlled over 2 million square miles of land. It stretched from the tip of what is today Italy, Egypt, Great Britain, Asia, and more. The Hadrian Wall was built in 122 AD in an effort to keep the barbarians out. Barbarians were groups of tribes of people Rome wished to conquer. The Romans believed that these people were uncivilized by their standards. These particular barbarians came from today's Scotland and northern England. It was a stone wall 73 miles long and built entirely by hand. As the acceptance of Christianity in Rome grew, by 313 AD, the Roman Emperor Constantine wrote an edict, or an official letter stating a new rule, that Christianity is to be accepted and tolerated. It was called the Edict of Milan. 74 years later, in 380 AD, Theodosius I makes Christianity the official and only religion of the Roman Empire. Theodosius I also split Rome into two halves, the Western and the Eastern Roman Empire. Each half had its own ruler. Rome was known as always having a very powerful army. However, in 410 AD, the Visigoths, who were from what is now modern Portugal, Spain, and part of southern France, invaded the capital of Rome. It was the first time in over 800 years that Rome had fallen to an enemy. It was a horrible and disastrous time for the Roman Empire. The end of Rome was near. In 476 AD, the Goths defeated the last emperor of Rome, Romulus Augustus. The Goths were a nomadic people. They traveled around much of Europe at the time, moving from place to place in order to find food, trade, and wage war. The Western Roman Empire fell, and soon the entire empire fell as well. This time is known as the beginning of the Dark Ages in European history. The journey from the beginning to the end of the Roman Empire is an amazing one, full of incredible people and events. Remember, this is only a small overview of ancient Rome's story. In the second part of this series, Ancient History, the Roman Empire Part 2, we will learn all about some of Rome's most famous myths, their art, and culture. Remember to practice what you've learned in our fun online games and quizzes. Until our next travel through history, remember to always be clever.
Hey, hey.